Alright boys, here we go. Last round, round 10 in Stanton, Alabama. This is the Gobbler Getter. This was not supposed to be on our race schedule this year. We were actually going to do a race in Virginia before Oklahoma, and it got canceled for some reason, something to do with a land acquisition. So we ended up in Alabama, which I'm glad about because either way I was going to skip Oklahoma just due to distance and time. But I'm glad that I didn't have to skip the last round for awards and, getting to do the last one with all the boys and all that stuff. This race was killer. It was like a good mix of Georgia and South Carolina. It's similar to Sumter in that way. So there's a lot more sand and clay mix, and then you get these weird rocky exchanges where it was technical but not terrible. A lot like Georgia, but then it got really tight, like this pine sections and big sections where it was, bar banging the whole way, just like Sumter usually is. Conditions for this race were killer. It was a little cold in the morning. There's some kind of front coming through, so when we got up, it was in the 30s, frost on the ground, all that stuff. We took off at 8 a.m. due to time change, and it made it so everything was a little more tight. You feel a little stiff in the morning when you're getting going. So test 1, it took me a minute to get used to it and get all warmed up, but by this is test 4, I felt really good. I had a really good day on the bike. Felt really good all day long. I had 2 bobbles where I crashed pretty hard, but it didn't ruin my day or anything like that. I think it was just because I went a whole month between round 8 and round 10 that I just didn't ride. I tried to race one race, but ended up having some bike issues, so I couldn't ride. Terrain was killer. This was, like I said, it was clay and sand mixed, and then a lot of pine loam. And this reminds me of home. It's a very comfortable race for me. And then the elevation on this race, there was not a lot of it. Where we were was very flat, and it was like this traversed a set of mountains or a set of hills, and they made good use of that kind of terrain, having good off camber and drops and hill climbs and things like that. So it made this race really interesting and pretty technical. So unlike one of my other videos, I'm not really going to just talk about the race the whole time. I'm going to talk about the whole series. And this is my first time running an entire national series, and probably my only time running a national series. I'll say that for doing it, it was incredible. I'm so glad I got to do it. Made some crazy cool memories and got to hang out with some friends the whole time, travel buddies now, and it's just something that was a lot of fun to do. It is a big commitment though. You're going to 10 states, 10 months, and there's the cost of travel and the time commitment. It was a 4-day event every time for me to go to one of these, just because you need to take off for work and you have to go and be away from your family and all that stuff. But I will say that I'm excited that I did it, and that I would encourage anybody who's got it on their book to be like, one of the things they do, jump on it when you can. Organizers and the officials of this race were really, they're fair and they're prompt, and they do everything the way they say they're going to do it. It always starts on time. If there's some big issue, like there happened to be in the Indiana race, they ended up dropping test 3 because it was a big problem. There was no hemming and hawing about it. They just did it. And I like that kind of, we're making this decision. We're the officials. We're not going to be, pushed and biased by the other people who are complaining because it's not working out for them. It's what's best for the racing organization. Their scoring is accurate. There's no problems ever with the scoring. There was, it's just a well-run machine. These guys know what they're doing, and they know how to put on a really good race. Every event's good. The venues are great. You're always going to be kind of remote, but they make it feel like you're in part of a community, especially if you can show up, a day or two beforehand, and then you get this whole, experience of being there when all the RVs show up, and you get to stake your claim and have your own little spot you go to. It makes for a really cool event. Throughout the whole thing, I made some friends that, guys that raced in my class, like in one of my videos I talked about Brantley. I've got a friend now from another part of the country that I never thought I would ever meet, and it's just because of this racing series in this organization, because we did the whole thing essentially together while showing up, in separate cars. But we were there at every race and got to talk about it, and somebody to be in the same class with and all that good stuff. So it makes for a really, really cool feeling and environment and event, just how the whole thing is run together. I will say, after all that though, I'm glad it's over. And while I'm bummed that I'm not doing it again, the pressure that went along with it to be able to show up to one of these events every month and to have the time and to be I'm lucky enough to have a job where my time off is easy to ask for, and I accrue it very quickly so I can get off whenever I really need to. Being offered this stuff was not like I'm going to lose my job because I chose to go racing, or I'm going to have to miss or drive all night long because I couldn't get off work kind of thing. It was just, how much time do you have, and you're welcome to take it. So if you don't have that availability, you got to be, some of these races were 16 hours, 12 hours from me, and I'm in northern South Carolina. It's a haul, it's a commitment, and that, the stress of driving and making sure your stuff's all set up and correct and your bike's ready to go, and being ready to race with all that, travel in mind, is stressful. And then you're away from your family and all that, and it makes it so, while this event was a very enlightening and I was very happy I did it, I'm glad it's over just because it's an experience that I've had now, and it's something that I can say, okay, I did it, I did the whole thing, I traveled all these places, and I finished how I finished, and I'm really happy with that. Like I said about this race, I felt good on the bike all day. I didn't feel like I was pushing my pace as hard as I could have been. Like I could have been going faster, but I was never, uncomfortable. I just felt good all day long, which led me to ending up 5th in 30B out of 23, I think is what it was. And with my scores overall for the season, it put me at 3rd overall in 30B, which for running a whole national event, I was really excited to end up with that finish and feel like that if I did it again, I could better my score. So all said and done, I'm really glad that we did this series. I'm grateful for Josh and Keith to have those two guys as travel companions the whole way. Really grateful for friends that I made during this race series, and then happy I did the whole thing. If you can do it, I say go for it. You won't regret it, and then it's such a better event than doing like a local series every year. I know guys who run the whole, they run the same local series over and over and over and over again. And that's great, but at some point you just get you're tired of the tracks, and you're tired of this same thing over and over again. And with this, you don't get that feeling, because everywhere is so different, and each course is so different, each layout's so different, that you really get a good, refreshing ride, which keeps everything fresh, and it keeps you on your toes, and it makes you learn to adapt to different situations. I'm glad for that experience, and I'm glad that I ran this series, and overall it's a positive experience. The only thing that I didn't like was the amount of travel, but even that, if you've got a good travel companion, a good set of companions, it makes it all worth it. So thanks to NEPG for putting on such a good series. Thanks to Josh and Keith for being such good travel companions and making all these trips easy, even if they were 12 and 14 hours every trip. Thanks to Husqvarna for making such a good bike that I put so many freaking hours on and beat the hell out of it, and it still runs. This event was something I'll never forget, and I'm glad I did the whole series, and I'm glad I got these videos to fall back on. This is just a big hill that we had. There's some people stuck in this channel. I'm kind of glad they sent me over this way, because I watched some of the reviews, recap videos, and that main line was just a slot car kind of deep channel. I'm glad I didn't have to go in there. This one's a little shorter. Thanks for tuning in and watching all these videos. If you have, next year I'm going to be following the North Carolina series as well as doing some hard enduros. So if you guys enjoy this thing, do the whole like, comment, subscribe thing, and I'll see you on the next race, wherever that is. Peace.